finally. Sorry about Tuesday. That was totally not my fault. I thought I had service and I totally didn't. So after like, I don't know, 2 minutes of trying, I obviously knew it wasn't gonna work. So anyway, I'm at Tugman, William H. Tugman, I think, State Park. It's on the coast. I'm at the hiker-biker camp. And yeah, so hopefully this live stream works. Got one person. How you doing? Everything going well? Hope your e-bike is running well, or your preparations for buying or building an e-bike are going well. Hey, what's up, Michael? Yeah, man. Yeah. Hopefully this stream goes well. Hey, Landon's here as well. What's up, man? Cool. Awesome. Yeah, good to talk to you. This should work out way better than me like trying to ride and not die in Ashland. So, and like wind noise and all that fun stuff. Yeah, this camp's pretty cool. It has like bear box and a bunch of stuff. I'm gonna actually like do a little tour of this area, but I have a couple things planned besides answering questions. But the first one, well, I should say, I mean, I think both of you guys, as far as I know, Michael, Landon, and whoever else joined, I think you guys already have e-bikes, right? It's been, I get like completely enveloped in nature and day and like built mine. Yeah, yep. Nice. So yeah, this video should still be interesting besides answering questions, because I've been getting a lot of comments and questions about, and even just people I've been meeting on the road, that they see my e-bike and they're like, how, you know, the obvious questions like, where do you charge, and like, how long does it take, and how long is your range, and all that stuff. I'm gonna go into more like the electrical part, because range, as most people would know, is 100% dependent upon what terrain and everything else. I want a bike kit. Lennon says yes, for my bike and a battery made from surplus cells. Nice, hell yeah. Yeah, very cheap battery then. I would like to build my own battery, but I do know that like, I know it's not that complicated, I think, from what I can tell. Like connecting up the BMS and things. Yeah, regardless, I think that's all. Let's put it that way. It's way cheaper, way cheaper. I do know that. Like, you can buy like a lot of people buy like laptop battery packs in bulk, and so you can get like, you know, 200 cells for like $50, you know, and maybe like out of every pack there might be like one that's dead, but you still have, you know, 190 something, you know, cells to have, which is pretty sweet. Yeah, but yeah, the purpose of this was to talk about, for example, the three main topics, we'll say, is going to be battery recommendations for someone touring, right? Where to charge. Michael says, built 2 kilowatt pack with, dang. All right. Well, yeah, that would work for sure. Yeah, well, so, I mean, I guess you guys can chime in too, like, because, you know, let me go through these though. So the first, yeah, basically battery for touring, what you need, like how much you need basically, where to charge, and then like e-bike related touring tips based on my experience on the road. This is like my 8th e-bike tour, so I feel like I have a pretty decent like. Hey, Dad, how's it going? Yeah, I feel like I have a pretty decent like overview of, you know, some of the things you might encounter as an e-bike specific tourer. So yeah, so the first thing is going to be used all the same model of cells, says Landon, as I don't recommend. Yeah, totally. Yeah, right. Absolutely. Yeah, totally agree. So what he said was using the same brand and type of cell to make a pack instead of mixing and matching. And that's totally the right way to do it, because it's not just about adding up voltage over cells, because if they have different capacities, they're going to charge differently. So some are rated for power, some are rated for energy. So like Samsung 25Rs are really popular. I'm using Samsung 35E cells. My old pack, which was 17.5 amp hours, also made by EM3V. Those were Panasonic GA cells. So I think all three of those are like the most popular. Not to say they're like the best, but I do actually really like the newer 35E cells, which is what I've been using in my big pack, and they're energy cells, not power. Lennon says chemistry of each model varies slightly. It will give different performance and lifespans. Yeah, 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 and charging ability. But yeah, so the main points I was going to make though was how much battery to have, right? So I would say that you want, so like the capacity I would say is 30 amp hours. That would probably be like a good baseline for what size of battery or batteries you have to tour with, because that gives you about 100 miles range. And I think that's like the sweet spot in terms of weight and range, because you might plan on, let's say you're going to do 25 or 30 or 40 or 50 or 70 miles a day. I think that's like the range you're going to expect when you're trying to tour. And you don't ever want to run out of battery, which I've only had happen once. But I think it's important to have way more battery than you're going to need, right? Because when you're touring, you have like range anxiety. That's like a thing that you just have to overcome, and it happens, to everyone, of course, because that's the most scary thing you can think of while you're e-bike touring is, oh, I'm going to run out of battery on the bottom of a hill out in the middle of nowhere. So you have to kind of plan around that and make sure that you're when you're like designing your trip, trying to look at like places, like look them up online and check to see if they have power. So things to look at for like state parks and forest parks, like Forest Service parks, is see if they have any like normal like RV full hookup sites, right? Electric and water. If they don't, it'll usually say like no electric, no water. Then you probably won't find power there. So you have to kind of plan around that. And so you'd look for towns anywhere nearby which has like a cafe or a restaurant or a general store, or like there's so many different like places that you can find power without even having to like scavenge or anything. But you would just plan on not charging at camp, which is obviously ideal. And then if you can't, then you find a town and just have breakfast or coffee and grab internet and download movies and do all of those things that you do while you're on the road when you're in between big towns and things. But yeah, I think 30 amp hours is the sweet spot, and I think that 100 miles range is also the sweet spot. So, and they're basically the same thing. So at touring speeds, I can go 100 miles with my battery, and that's fully loaded. That's, including hills and everything else, like most average terrain. So I think if you are building from scratch, then you want to look at 3 different options. You have 3 different options mainly for touring if you want to do that. One is buy a huge battery like I have. The second option is if you're building a bike, regarding quality, Dad says, is it to have battery pack Yes. Yes. Yeah. Well, it's it's kind of a complicated question because I think all battery packs are fine. I think that ordering from a place, yeah, if you're gonna build a battery, like these guys. So Dad, for example, Michael and Landon, who are in here or what were in here, they both built their batteries for like super cheap, and I think that's like an art, just like anything else. Being able to build a quality battery and like just having a good BMS. But there's also something to say about like companies like EM3EV, which is where I've bought most of my batteries, or Lunicycle or Grin Technologies. I wouldn't really get a battery from Grin because unless you buy the little like packs that they have, they kind of like cheated the system, which is kind of cool. So on an airplane, you can only carry a certain size of battery. It doesn't matter how many batteries you have, but you only can have a certain size. And so what they've done is they've made these little battery modules that you can connect up either in 36 volt or 72 volt, being series and parallel on how you do that. And you can take a whole bunch of these batteries and you can connect them all up to either be a super high powered like battery, or it can be like a long range 36 volt battery. But they are just under the limitations of taking them on a plane. So if you were to want to like, and if you had a ton of money, by the way, because these things are like super expensive, you could literally have like 20 of these things like in your carry-on bag, and they would have to let you through because they are under the size that you can have to travel on a plane, even if you had 20 of them, right? So that's pretty funny. But otherwise, companies like EM3EV are trusted for brick batteries if you're like going for building something, and you can get like individual cells from this company too. But it's I just forgot the name now. It's a lady. She's in China as well, but like dang, I can't think of the name. I'll try to remember. But anyway. So you would get one big battery, you could get two 17 amp hour batteries, like bottle cage style, and then have one on your bike and then one in your pannier. Or if you bought a store-bought bike, then you would either have an 11 or 17 amp hour battery and then just add another battery. If you had an 11 amp hour battery, I would buy two batteries. So then you could say, okay, well, do I need 3 chargers or 2 chargers? And I don't think that's true, because this is how I would use 2 batteries if I were to buy my setup again. I might go with 2 bottle cage style, like 17 amp hour batteries, and I would name one Sam and one Pete, right? So Sam is going to be your main battery, and I would discharge Sam down to 30%. And then I would switch over to Pete, and then maybe run Pete for 20% until I got to camp. And then I would just charge Sam up to 100% again, and then use that as my main battery. And then run that on the next day, I would run it down to 30% again, and then switch back to Pete, and then run that one down 20%. So now it's at 60% still, which is still totally fine. And then, basically do that for like a week until you get down to where Pete, your secondary battery, is down to 30%. And then I would actually swap those two. So I would charge Sam to 100%, have that be my auxiliary battery, and then I would charge Pete to 100%, and then have that be my main battery, and then do the same process over that course of the week. That way you're using the batteries in kind of the same way, so you're not like, using one extensively and then only using one partially. So that's how I do 2, and just using one charger is totally fine. The other thing that I would say though is a lot of the store-bought bikes come with chargers that are kind of I don't know, they're just like really simplistic. So they may charge at like 2 amps, which is trash. Like there's no way I'm gonna wait, 6 hours to charge my battery. The other thing would be like they might have these like really loud fans. And the third thing would be that they don't allow you to charge to 80% or 90 or 100%. So you can only charge it to 100%. And that's actually kind of bad. So as most people that deal with lithium batteries know, lithium ion is happiest between 30 and 80%, right? And you can charge it to 100% as long as you're discharging it within a couple days. So it doesn't matter if you're charging to 100, it's still totally fine as long as you're discharging within a couple of days. If you're gonna store your battery for a long period of time, you don't ever leave it over 80% and you don't ever leave it under 30%. If you leave it between those two, like at 50%, we'll say, bird stalking me, then you can leave it, indefinitely, basically. It'll use, like the BMS will use a little bit of power draw over time, but not enough to where like a year would matter, So that's the deal. But like if you left let's say you run your battery to empty and then you go and leave it for a winter and you come back and you try to charge your battery, it's gonna be dead because it's discharged completely the whole time. Some Chinese chargers have an internal pot that can adjust. Oh, really? That's cool. Right on. Yeah, because I think that's important, I mean, obviously, like if let's say you have only an e-bike charger that charges to 100%, it's not like you can discharge my battery sometimes. Nice. Yeah, sure. Another way to discharge your battery, I say like if you have it charged to 100% and then you want to leave it for a couple weeks, just like go rip around your neighborhood for like 15 minutes and just full throttle it the whole time. Yeah, that's a creative. Yeah, BB Young, the incandescent light. That's yeah, that's very creative discharge. But what I was going to recommend though is, so I use a cycle satiator charger. Right? It's very expensive. However, it's silent, which is great. So if you're in a cafe or something. Michael says, how do you secure your bike at night when you camp? Are you ever worried it will get stolen? So it really depends on it depends on the people at the camp. If I end up interacting with everybody, then I don't really care. I don't really worry about it. If I haven't met everybody, or sometimes you'll meet, or you won't meet them, but you'll see there's a lot of cool transient people, but there's also some sort of sketchy transient people, unfortunately. So what I'll do is I have a cable lock, and I'll just cable lock it to like I'm sitting on a picnic table, or behind the camera there's a bear box with a couple posts, but I'll just throw my cable lock on there. But even more generally, I'm actually not really worried about my e-bike for two things. One, my bike isn't just like a simple button to turn it on and off. Like there's a process. There's like a 3-step process, and if you don't do it right, then you can't power my bike on. So not only would I would hear my bike, I would hear the freewheel if someone tried to move it, plus it's like 75 pounds, plus they wouldn't be able to use the electronic system anyway. And I think by that time I would probably get up out of my tent and chase them. So good luck with that. That's what I'm trying to say. Good luck stealing my bike. But yeah, no, I mean, it's yeah. Anyway, locking it to a picnic table is fine too. So, so for example, like tonight I have to charge. The charging station is actually out by the entrance to the hiker-biker camp, and there's full AC and stuff, but there's like a post there, so I'll just throw my cable lock around it, and I use a combo lock, by the way, just so I don't ever have to worry about keys and things. But anyway, so let me go back to this. So I was talking about built a power key. Oh, okay. I know what you mean. Like it's almost like, yeah, like if you don't have the key, like I think boats and like jet skis and stuff have things like that, right? Where like if you were to like fall off the jet ski, then it would like yank the key out. But yeah, for a charger, so this charger, I can charge up to 7 amps. So that means from empty to full, I can charge in about 2.5 hours. XT90, yeah, my battery is XT90 as well. Except my charger though, my charger is XLR. And so you're only using 2 pins, right? But the connector itself is really robust. This is like a standard like microphone cable connector. And so my battery has, hey, what's up, James from Wyoming? Greetings to you. Yeah, so Phase Runner CA3, I use the preset a lot. Yeah. Ooh, speaking of, so I'll go off on that tangent. So that's one thing that I just learned about my bike is because I have a CA3, and I have a Phase Runner, but I haven't installed it yet. I was having kind of an issue because I ended up, this is kind of a long tangent. Sorry guys. My torque sensing bottom bracket failed on me, which I'm assuming it was like a sensor in the bottom bracket itself. But I tried re-terminating things and I tried everything, and it just failed. So it is what it is, and it's fine. And I kind of got used to using a torque sensing bottom bracket, which, if you don't know what that is, that kind of gives you, it's like more of like a pedal assist. It gives you like pedal assist. So it senses your torque, your human torque, and then you can apply like a multiplier in the cycle analyst to however many times human power you want it to be. And that's kind of how that works. And it was fine. It was good. And I got used to that. So like going really slow, because I have a 2,000 watt e-bike. So for me to go to like the increment, I just use throttle. Yeah, I know, me too. Right now I'm totally just using throttle. But for me, so like what you were saying though is like you have presets. Yeah, you have presets in the cycle analyst to be able to adjust your power output. And so what I did is I have like the little auxiliary plus minus button, which I was using for my PAS. I have that set now to throttle limit, right? So now it's basically like I have more fidelity on my thumb throttle, and I can like dial now in how much power I want it to represent. What happened to my, I don't know, I have no idea. This one day I was like coming back from like a 20-mile commute and it just stopped working for some reason. And so it is what it is, you know. But yeah, now that I don't have it, and I don't know if you watched the first video of this series, but my crank arm kept falling off, or not, like coming loose on the spindle of that bottom bracket that didn't work at that point. And so I had that replaced with just a normal Shimano bottom bracket in Hood River. It took them like 5 minutes to replace it. So I don't think I'm gonna get another torque sensing bottom bracket. But going back to what I was saying is I bought a new torque sensing bottom bracket. I bought the Phase Runner. I bought a new computer just because of the terminals and like everything like worked together. I just felt like upgrading it all at the same time. Plus like the new, it came with like a different auxiliary button. So it has like power on and off, it has up and down, and it has a menu button, so I can like not have, I mean, it's all dumb. The funny thing is I spent whatever it was, $600 on all that stuff. I don't need the Phase Runner. My controller is totally fine. The computer is totally fine because I've been using that forever. I have a new computer now for no reason at all. What else? The torque sensing bottom bracket that came, it actually didn't work in the first place. Plus the bearings were all crushed, so I don't even know. I was kind of upset because that was like the whole point of, it's really disc truck with a roll off. Broke the wrench for the motor. Yeah, I know a lot of people. There's this guy named Jack Butler on YouTube. He did the Sun Trip, which is a solar-powered bike race from Lyon, France to some place in China. Yeah, and he's using a Surly Troll with BBS HD and a roll-off. Yeah, Jack Butler. I know. Yeah, I know. I want to do the Sun Trip so bad. I think like I totally planned on doing. Yeah, I know, right, Don? Well, and now he's like in like van life. I feel like there's this weird progression of like adventure peeps. Like they start out doing one thing, and then now it's van life, and then van lifers end up like going to, you know, building either a tiny home or like renovating a cottage or something like that. Filming riding e-bike. So I would say, based on what I think people like, using a chest cam is really good. I think that's like the closest to like first person experience, because I think that's what the benefit of that is. Helmet cams don't really work. I know a lot of kind of camera. Well, I mean, most people use a GoPro. I think any GoPro is fine, but I've always used Sony action cams. So I had a AS200 for 8 years, and then I bought a X3000, which is like the latest one, but it's still like 6 or 7 years old. But I still consider it better than a GoPro. Here's why. One is it has optical image stabilization as well as digital, so it does work better in low light, which I like to do. I like to ride at like sunset and stuff, so that helps. The audio is better. I know. Well, right, exactly. BR Young says I don't like low chest mount, and exactly, and that's the other reason why I don't like the GoPro mounts, because yeah. Well, I mean, I would on a recumbent, I would just put it on the top of your head, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to find where a person would look. So I think in terms of mounts go, the most first person is the one where it's like the mouth one, where you stick it in your mouth and the GoPro or whatever is like right here. I'm not gonna do that. Sorry, folks, it's not gonna happen. But then if you have the GoPro mount, then the GoPro has to be turned upside down to fit on the mount. So now, yeah, the GoPro is like clear down here, right? And so when you see those like mountain bike videos, all you see is like the person's handlebars, and you only see like a little bit of the actual horizon. So on the Sony mount makes my camera like right here. Yeah, chin mount, exactly. Yeah, so on most for sure, because like, but on a bike you're not wearing like a full face helmet normally. So with the Sony, the camera is literally here. So like where my finger is, that's the lens, and it's like totally pointed up and right there, which is also why you can hear me really well, because my mouth is only like, you know, that far from the mic. So I don't know if you guys saw that I appropriated squirrel tail. Here, I'll show you my camera. I should actually do that. Yeah, so here's my camera. Here, I'll record my live stream. One touch recording. You guys are being recorded. You'll be in my next video. So, this is the top of a squirrel tail that I Gorilla Glued over the microphones, because my footage was garbage before that, because I lost my little windscreen. But this squirrel tail works great. So there you go. I think I'm gonna name the squirrel Microphone Man. That's kind of a stoner reference, but I was trying to figure out a name for my new squirrel mascot. Okay, so let me let me keep going on that because I might as well. Like tips for filming. So chest cam, or some cam, right? Helmet cam. How many more days left in my trip? That is, I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, yeah. I think any action cam is really good, you know. But yeah, on my trip, I'm not sure. My plan, I'm 2 days behind my original plan, which would be getting back into Portland on the 2nd of August. I might go up to Astoria and then go back through the mountains that way. So that might add another couple days off. So I might be back on the 4th or 5th, I guess. So I'm not sure. But this, going back to filmmaking, this trip, I was trying to do two things with this. One, I wanted to document my trip as I go, and I haven't done this before, from just like using my phone and my action camera. So I'm using an iPhone 11 for part of my only other camera plus my Sony, and I'm editing on my phone. So I'm using this program called Luma Fusion, which is only available, I believe, for iPhone. It might be available for Android. But it's excellent. It's so great, and I figured out how to. So basically, what I do is I have this like little USB micro SD card to a lightning adapter. So I take the footage, I take the card from my camera, my action cam, and I stick it in here. And this has to be powered because it doesn't have enough power to like pull the data. So I plug it into my battery bank, which is charging my phone right now, and then just plug this in, and then I import the videos to Photos. And so then all of my footage that I have over the course of, the few days that I'm making the video, all show up in order, in sequence, in Photos, right? This is like a brand new way I figured out how to do this, because I have to obviously like dump all of my footage off of my phone every time I make a video so that I have more capacity to do it, right? So what I do is after I import all of those, then I go into LumaFusion, and then I open up a new project, and I just toss in every single thing that I've done, everything I've recorded for that whole period of time. And then I can go through and I actually just cut out stuff that is like, I don't know. It's hard for me to say what is actually like good footage and what's not good footage, because it all seems kind of like crap to me. What is? So I try to like just be relentless and like cut through everything that isn't cool at all. And then once I make the video, then I upload the video to YouTube. Then I delete all of the stuff off of my phone that isn't something that I would keep forever, like certain pictures I might keep, but all the video footage I delete because it's on YouTube now, right? And then I also keep all of the footage that I get from my action camera. So now I'm on my second 128 gigabyte micro SD card, because I want to keep all of that footage just so I can use it for later or whatever. Hold on. I missed that last comment, Don, but give me 1 second. I need to run over and grab something. I'll be right back. Give me 1 sec. All right, I'm back. Sorry. All right, here, Don, can you put up that last message that you sent? Well, while that's happening, so let me finish talking about this charger. So the benefit of this is that it's waterproof, it's silent, so there's no loud fan. So like if you're trying to be discreet, like leaving it in the bathroom or something, then that works really well. Plus I really like that the cable, so this is a standard what's called an Iec cable. So this is what powers like everything, like computers, printers. I mean, they're everywhere. They're like, you know, I've had this cable for 10, 15 years, something like that. Deepen your voice. Well, yeah, I mean, I know on, what is it? Stream Deck has like voice alteration and stuff. But I mean, if you're worried about your anonymity online, then just don't ever show your face and don't ever show your voice. You can always use like those text reading things. Someone taking it. No one knows what this is, man. I promise. No one knows what this is. Like, I think e-bikes scare the crap out of people. But yeah, so this side, this cable is replaceable as well, and so I've been using this for close to 8 years now. No, 6 years. And so I bought an extra cable just for when the other one goes out, and that was only like $10 or something like that. This is the charger I would recommend. Fast charging is totally important. No one knows what this is, I promise. It does not look $300, but it totally is. Yeah. No, I think I like the confusion when people walk up to my bike anyway. Dang. Well, yeah, I mean, I had like LiPo chargers back in the day when I was using LiPo batteries. I was charging at like 14 amps, right? Because, you know, and my only limitation was that my outlet was 50 amp. Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about where to charge, you know, because that's what everybody's question is. Everyone's like, oh, how do you charge? Well, like I said, the first step is having a large battery, a larger battery than you think you need, probably by twice. So if you're planning on 50 mile days, then a 100-mile battery is what you want, because you don't want to be sitting outside of a convenience store or a Walmart or a cafe for like 4 hours charging your battery. You know, you want to be able to like go have lunch, plug in your bike if you can, charge when you can, but you want to try to like rely on just having a full battery for a day. You know, like I toured with a friend who built like an e-trike, and he only had a 17 amp hour battery. And there's another guy on YouTube, his name is Johnny Nerd Out. He's kind of a mid-drive guy, but I saw a video here, gosh, it was like Tuesday before I was doing this. It's kind of like the reason why I was thinking about that. But he did a tour using a 17 amp hour battery, and he tried going like 100 miles in a day, and he had to charge like 3 times, and it took him like 12 hours to get where he's going. That's not how to e-bike tour. It's not how you do that. It's just not the way. The way is you just, you know, if you want to go 50 miles, then you can go, you know, 20 miles an hour on flats, and you can go 11 miles an hour up hills, and, you know, 7 miles an hour up crazy steep hills, right? And still get where you're going and not ever have to worry about, you know, running out of juice. If you're going less than 50, then you can even be more, I don't know, just wasteful. Not really wasteful, it's always fun to waste a battery. Yeah, pavilions. Yeah, so that was one of the places I was going to mention. So other than camps, so hiker bikers in Oregon have a lot of times they have power, but one of the places that if you're kind of going through a town, you can look at, like on Google Maps, you can check and see if they have city parks. And so a lot of times those day use pavilions or gazebos or whatever you want to call them, those have outlets in them because people like to, have their stereos or lights or something, So those things almost always have outlets. Any Dollar General is going to have an outlet. Pretty much all cafes and restaurants have outlets somewhere in the back. So like I've only had to charge at like an establishment, like a public establishment, once on this trip, and that was still not even necessary. It just happened to be that I went to that restaurant before I came into camp, and I was basically empty, and so rather than, yeah, I know, 2 amps ain't gonna cut it, man. You need like a faster charger. So let's go back to chargers then. So you can a cycle satiator will work with any battery, no matter what battery you have. Well, I mean, unless you had like a 200 volt battery, anything between, gosh, probably, well, I mean, definitely 36 to 72 volt, it'll work with, and you can charge up to like 7 or more amps. I think even at 36 volt you can charge fast. Charge my battery pack. No, the charger has a built-in surge protector, so I'm not that worried about it. Well, okay, so James, anything faster would damage the battery. That depends on the size of your battery, and that is true. So if you have an 11 amp hour battery, like 36 volt, 11 amp hour, then 2 amps, but I still think you could get away with probably 4 amps, so that's still twice as fast as you would be able to charge. But mine's a 30.5 amp hour battery, and I'm only charging at 7 amps, but I could definitely charge it probably 10 or 11 amps if my charger could do that, but being that it's fanless, it won't work. No, you could totally charge at like 6 amps, I would say, for sure, 100%, yeah, easy. Yeah, and so cycle satiator would be able to do that. And so the thing is, depending on the connector, because a lot of the bottle cage style or like especially store-bought will have proprietary connectors, then you would have to adapt it to the cycle satiator, or if it's more of like if it's a standard battery, you might be able to find, they might even have like adapter cables available. But I like XLR. I think it's like a super robust connector for charging anyway. But mine's actually adapted. So mine's adapted from XLR to Anderson connector. So all of my connectors for everything are Anderson, except for between the motor and the controller is what's called an L10 connector. It's like a screw-on, like plug style that has like screw connector. And everything between my controller and my battery is Anderson, except for right at the battery is a XT90 with a spark arrest. So when I connect my battery, it doesn't spark on me. No. I mean, the whole point of this, I know. It is, because it's not going anywhere. It's like so overkill. It's over-engineered, and I absolutely love over-engineered stuff. My kickstand for my bike, so I have a dual kickstand made by Soma now. That thing is so over-engineered. I feel like my bike is just like a rock. Like I won't move in any wind. I can like load up all my panniers. It just sits there. It's by far my favorite e-bike accessory so far is my stupid kickstand. So. Yeah, so fast charging, that is super important. Being able to charge to under, yeah, I don't know what to tell you. Cycle Satiator is fanless, and it's still, I mean, if I'm charging at 7 amps, Soma, it's a dual adjust. If you type in Soma, S-O-M-A, dual kickstand adjustable, then you'd find it. It's like 50 bucks. Totally worth it though. But yeah, so my satiator gets really hot at like 7 amps charging, which is fine though, because I mean, I've done that hundreds and hundreds of times now, and it's never been a big deal. You know, I try to make sure that like nothing's touching the charger or whatever, you know, like I'll let it cool down a little bit before I throw it back in my pannier so that it doesn't like melt anything, but I don't think it would really melt anything, to be honest. Weight I carry. Michael says, how much weight do I carry? Well, I think that's funny you ask. So here, let's do this. So I actually laid out every single thing that I have on my bike. So here, let's actually flip this. Can I do this? No, orientation's locked. All right, it's fine. So where's my camera at? There it is. So this is everything I have with me. And I have it all organized in terms of pannier and where it goes and everything else, right? So I won't really go through everything, but this is like my main pannier. So water bottles, coffee, jacket, lock, sandals, passport. Here's all of that. That's one pannier here, right? And then this is where it stops, and then this is my like camp pannier. So it's my sleeping bag, ground pad, pillow, clothes right there. I'm only wearing like, I have like two sets of clothes, and I just wash them and change them. This is my electronics bag. So got the charger. This has extra camera batteries, camera charger, some tools and things, journal, power, sunglass case. This has like my USB battery bank and all my cables and stuff in there. This pannier is puffy jacket, some extra food stuff. This is like a ranch thing I got for chips like a while back. Instant coffee, my stove, creamer. What's this? This is my water purifier. And this is like what I would consider my garage / kitchen. So I've got all the like kitchen stuff, but then I've also got like all these like extra things that I hope I don't ever need, like extra charge cable. Here's an extra throttle, some different Velcro. There's a wire clippers, waterproof cover, so in case it rains I can throw this over my battery bag. I've got a couple tubes with me. I've got a couple different kinds of brake pads depending on weather. I've got my camera tripod. This is what I mount my camera to. I use the quad lock, so I can just, my phone case has a quad lock, and so this is also on my bike, and I'll show you that in a second. But yeah, pretty minimal stuff. Chain lube, postcards from my grandma, blue Loctite. That's my tent in this bag here. This is also my laundry bag. 35 pounds. Everything I have is 35 pounds. This is the bag that my sleeping bag came in. It's like a huge... Yeah, it's also crimpers though. I don't need wire cutters, but I basically use this just for like wire stripping. I know I have a knife, and I could do that, and that's true, but you're right. It's probably a waste of weight. Don't judge me, but you're right. I know. The other thing that I don't have on this list, because it's summer, I would add waterproof pants and waterproof booties. But other than that, this is like what I would use year round. Besides the extra waterproof stuff. Got Bluetooth headphones. This is my Sony chest mount. Here's my gloves and my sunglasses, helmet. So my bike, here's my panniers, empty, still on the bike. Got all my tools in here. So I've got my crescent wrench for getting my back wheel off. I've got this thing because it's easy to adjust my derailleurs. I've got spoke wrench and tie levers and multi-tool and some Allen wrenches because my multi-tool is actually kind of a pain in the ass to use the Allen wrenches. This holds my wallet usually and just extra crap that I'm putting in there. I have a water bottle holder. This is the quad lock thing. So here, you guys can probably hear this. Talk about satisfying. Here, check this out. Listen to this sound. Hold on. Let me attach you to my bike. Oops. It's not working. Come on. Okay, here we go. Ready? Ready for this? Oh yeah. Totally locked in place. Let's do it one more time. Oops. Oh yeah. That is the satisfying click, I'm telling you. But yeah, my bike is all the same. So I've got my Cycle Analyst 3. I have to update the firmware. This is my giant 30.5 amp hour battery bag. Got my controller. It's a 48 volt 35 amp controller. My drivetrain is all Acera, except for I think my front derailleur is an Altus. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Shimano St. Pedals. Rims are Rhino Light XL rims, both built by Stoke Wheels in Portland, Oregon. Motor is, I used to tour on an upright bike. I used a low rider rack in the front, very stable. I have a low rider rack. So this is. It's actually called an Axiom Reel. Yeah, I know, man. I am excited to. I programmed my phase runner. I was excited. I just felt like if I was gonna going on this tour, I didn't want to add a whole bunch of new stuff without having a good amount of testing done. I'm totally familiar. I rode this all the way to San Francisco as this bike sits, right? But yeah, these are the Axiom Lowrider. Yeah, I love these things. If I were to do one design modification, I would maybe make a piece of metal that comes up here and goes to a point and then connects up to the other one, just to give it a little bit more rigidity. But I haven't really had a problem, and I have, what would I say, 35 pounds total. I bet you, I don't know. I almost think that I put more weight in my front than I do my back. But these work really well for the suspension fork because they're below the suspension, so there's no bounce involved. It's pretty sweet. Yeah, I know. I've seen that one. These ones, the reason why I got this one is because, and maybe the Blackburn does work, but this one just, I don't know. I've had this for a while and I really enjoy it. So I don't know. I'm kind of a minimalist. I just keep what I have, you know. Here's an expensive item. This is the stupidest yet most awesome waste of money, not waste of money, but spend of money I've had. So it's a Connect seat post, and it travels straight up and down versus like a thud buster, which kind of moves you backwards. This thing is friggin' awesome, but it costs like $160. But man, it's like riding a Cadillac. Freaking amazing. But yeah, I think that's my whole bike. I use a friction shifter for the back derailleur, just because I like the friction shifter better. Yeah. Once I have the phase runner, here, let me turn my camera around again now. Once I have the phase runner, then my bike will be closer to 2600 watts, something like that. Let's see. There we go. Yeah, it's at 1800 watts now. I can do like a max. Mom's e-bike has that. What does it have? Mom's e-bike has what? This one speed always, right? I would say ludicrous speed, but that's kind of dumb. I think e-bike ludicrous speed's way cooler than any other ludicrous speed. I'm always in top gear. Seat thing. Yeah, I know. I told her to get that. It's awesome. The Connect seat post. It's a company out of Seattle. I think if you buy the whole kit, which comes with all 3 different springs, so it's like depending on your rider weight, then you would install a certain type of spring. If you get the whole kit, it's like $200, but if you tell them the weight that you want and they just give you the spring that it comes with, then that's only like 160. But yeah, so let's see. Talked about battery, talked about charger, talked a little bit about where to charge. So when you're planning out your routes, I think the charging in camp is obviously is like ideal, because then you just ride and then you get to camp and you charge, and you can charge while you're doing, customizable. And you can charge whenever you want, like while you're setting up camp, while you're making dinner. So the places in camp you can charge, like if you're in any state park, then most of the time they're gonna have like actual bathrooms with flushable toilets, and those always have outlets in them. So if you're not in a hiker biker camp that has AC, then you can just do what I do, which is throw your battery into a pannier and then lock it to the bottom of the sink, and there's always outlets right next to there. Like my e-bike, same as my Honda. Yeah, I know. Different beasts for sure, right? A motorbike and an e-bike are different beasts, and I like both. I like riding motorcycles, but I think the beauty of an e-bike is the fact that it's silent, and that you can still ride it as a normal bike. Michael asks if it would be a good idea to bring an extension cord. I actually have been getting by just fine using my 15-foot Iec cable. So it's one cable and it's 15 feet long, and that has always seemed to be long enough for me to not have to worry about it. I've envisioned, how like if you were riding a horse, for example, you might have like a lasso, attached to your horse, like saddle thing, right? So I thought like the e-bike version of that would look funny if it was like an extension cord, right? But yeah, no, I haven't used I've never brought an extension cord. I've just used my 15-foot Iec cable. It's always been fine. I guess I could just use my Iec cable and use that as my like electric bike lasso. But yeah, I've seen people with it, or that guy Johnny Nerd Out, that he had like a 25-foot extension cord with him. Yeah, I never had to worry about that. So I guess let's go more into like where to charge, because it's not really that hard. You don't have to look that hard. Power is way easier to find than water, in my opinion. So, and this is without having to use any power from like residential houses or like sketchy areas, or having to even like sit outside of convenience stores for hours on end. Pretty much any restaurant that you're gonna go to, like when you're in like the backwoods kind of places, they all have power on the outside, and like, you can totally ask if you can charge there, but I normally just park my bike like I normally would, and that would be kind of out in the, like off in the corner anyway, so that it's not like drawing attention. And that's normally where an outlet would be. So I would just plug it in and go have like you know, a burger or something for, you know, an hour and a half. And then when I get back, my battery's, you know, an hour and a half charged. So, yeah, that's kind of how I've been doing it. I haven't had to worry about, you know, charging out in the open and just kind of wasting time. And I don't ever charge if I don't have to. So if I know I'm going to make it someplace and I know I'm going to find power, then I just don't worry about it. I don't worry about keeping my battery charged up. But I think one thing I'll say to that though is, what's this? Well, I can't look at that right at the moment, because if I do, my camera might jump out. Got text. But yeah, so one thing I'll say to charging though is, oh, okay. So yeah, I don't like to feel sketchy about taking power, right? That's one of the things to really just get over, is like worrying about taking power, because you're only taking like 10 cents of power, you know? Like a kilowatt hour is like 12 cents for residential around here, and for businesses it's like 7 cents or whatever it is. I really honestly don't ever feel bad. But like if you're going to, let's say you're going to be there for like an hour and a half outside of a convenience store. So for example, the one time I've charged at a convenience store for a period of time was in Butte Falls. Yeah, Butte Falls. And so there was like a little general store with an outlet like totally right in front. Not like, you know, I mean, it was like a little bit off to the side. But I just asked the lady, I was like, hey, do you mind if I charge something while I'm on a bike tour? Do you mind if I charge something? So I don't even tell people what I'm charging. I don't tell them I'm charging my e-bike or whatever, because I don't need any more questions. I just ask them if I can use their outlet to charge. And they're always like, yeah, totally, do whatever you need, you know? So then I just plugged my bike in, and then there was a park across the street from the general store, and I just you know, laid in the grass and listened to a podcast. So, but yeah, I was kind of recording all of the different places that I was like looking for outlets specifically today as I was riding. And I rode for 42 miles, and I found, so including the outlet that I'm going to charge my bike tonight at, there were 16 totally easy, accessible outlets between where I stayed last night and where I'm staying now. So 16 different places to charge in 40 miles, right? And it's kind of an unfair day because I did go through Coos Bay and also Charleston, so those were towns. But of the two towns, there was only four of those 16 were in those towns, right? That I just saw like off the side of the road. So, you know, that still leaves a whole bunch. I think range anxiety is a big deal, but charger heat up in the sun. Yeah. Well, so what I normally do is I'll set the charger on the ground, like behind my tire. So if my tire's here and the sun's on the other side, I just set it behind the tire. So, you know, yeah, I've never had it overheat by any means, and I've charged at 7 amps like every bike tour I've been on. So yeah, and most of the time, like if it's in a bathroom or something, I just leave the charger outside of the pannier so that it doesn't get, you know, for one, it's not like heating up the battery, but it's also not like overheating inside the pannier. So I'll put it on the floor, and like I said, no one knows what the heck that is. So no one's gonna touch something that's plugged in that looks like hefty and like can electrocute you. But yeah, gosh, I found power everywhere. I was at the top of Mount Hood. Yeah, Mount Hood Meadows, and I found a shady spot to charge while I was having lunch. There's been times where I was, gosh, it was when I was on my way back from Jedediah State Park one time, so 2 or 3 years ago. I pulled over because I thought my spoke was loose, and it was actually a motor failure. So that was a trip. I think I did actually record that. I think it was to Cape Blanco and back. That was actually my failed attempt to Jedediah State Park using a motor that I had bought before. That's why I'm not using my phase runner right now. It's why I'm not using any new equipment in terms of electronics on this trip, because I've had bad experiences with failures before, you know, so I'm not dealing with that. I'm a technician by trade, so I'm smart enough to know that you don't, you know, update or, you know, change something right before you do something big. So what else? So yeah, I talked about, so e-bike charging, type of battery that you need. I guess I could talk about how I ride my bike, because I think a lot of people don't understand e-bikes and how to ride them. And like I saw, like Michael and Landon that were in here, they both have, it sounds like they both have CA, like cycle analysts, which means they have auto cruise probably. At least I have auto cruise. So the way I do that is it's set to 2 seconds. So if I hold the throttle for 2 seconds, then it stays in place and it blinks. And it shows me, or basically, yeah, it kind of tries to hold speed. The speed will fluctuate a little bit, like if you're going up a steep hill. Cheap e-bike controller kit. Yeah, cool. Yeah. Yeah, if you watched any of my earlier videos, I had an eBay kit for 10,000 miles of my e-bike experience. And I still have like an older eBay kit or eBay motor in a box. Thinking of opening up my BBS HD. Well, you probably, I thought that Jack Butler had a tutorial on how to do that. If not, I'm sure you could find a tutorial, because that's actually one of the things that he said is, like, specifically when you buy a BBS HD, the first thing to do is open it up and like clean out all the like cheap crappy grease. Yeah, I know, right? Not upgrading before the trip, I know. Not trying to live stream when you find out that you have absolutely no bandwidth uploading. I know, all those things. But yeah, so you should definitely re-lube your BBS HD, but I'm sure there's a video on how to do it. I don't think there's any, the thing about a BBS HD, and so Don, maybe a person to look up is Johnny Nerd Out on YouTube. He's a mid-drive guy, and we disagree on hub motor versus mid-drive, which is fine. I think all e-bikes are great, but I'm definitely a hub motor person. He has a lot of like videos on that, and he builds mid-drive bikes, and he's doing a lot of tutorials and stuff now. So it's a guy, he seems like a really nice guy too. So he might have a BBS HD grease, or maybe even like Luna Cycles might have a video up about that. But as far as I know, it's just taking the casing off, and then you might have to like, well, actually I don't know. I don't have enough experience with opening up a BBS HD to tell you. So, but it shouldn't be that big a deal. I want to change to a fat bike. Why do you want to change to a fat bike? Do you live in like a sandy area, or do you have, is there like snow there? Because in my opinion, I think fat bikes are kind of loud. There's a lot of tire friction. Yeah. Yeah. But I think having like front suspension and getting like a, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, my friend Dan, who I took a trip. I haven't made this video yet, guys. It's pre-pandemic. It was a year before that, and I rode from Portland down to San Francisco. And then like the pandemic happened, and I don't know, it just felt weird to make that video. But I have a whole trip, like my longest trip I've ever done besides this one, hasn't even ever been posted. But this guy Dan was from Ottawa, and he rides like fat bikes all the time up there, and he rides year round, you know. So he's got a few different bikes. He's got a road bike or touring bike. I think he's using a Trek 920. I think that's what he was riding when I met him. He's got a Surly fat bike, and he's got a regular mountain bike. Basically, you have this. Oh, really? Your bike right now is the same as mine? Like with the same motor and everything? Or you mean just like the same like wattage and stuff? Because yeah, mine's like a pretty average, like, you know, 52 volt, which a lot of people will you know, take a 48 volt motor, or sorry, 48 volt battery. No, 48 volt kit. So like if you buy like from eBay, you can get like a 48 volt 1000 watt kit, which is more or less a 1000 watt rated motor, with like a 20 or 25 amp hour controller, which is like my first bike was, the first kit that I bought. Style, 9 Continent CA3 phase runner. Okay, yeah, so yours is more of like a little bit more of an upgrade than mine, because mine's like the original Grin controller, not a Grin Finion. It's like based off of the Infineon controller, but they just made it black, made it smaller. So yeah, I'm excited to try my phase runner. The thing is, another reason why I didn't do it is so I converted. My motor is a Crystalite 3540R, and it was the original style that Grin was using. So they had Anderson connectors for the phase wires, and then they had JST connectors for the hall sensor wires and the signal wires. And I converted it over to an L10 connector, and then I also converted my controller over to an L10. Yeah, so you have a sine wave controller. Yeah. Yeah, me too. Like, sine wave is totally the way to go. Like, all you hear is like your freewheel if you're not pedaling. But so I converted it over to L10, but I think what I did is I mixed up the thermo resistor and the speedometer cable, or speedometer wires, and I ended up fixing it on the other end, so they both work. But now plugging it into a phase runner, I'm not getting temperature and I'm not getting speed, so I just need to like resolder those two wires. That was another thing. And I didn't, you know, like I said, yeah, you never ever mess with something before you're about to do something big. I feel like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Yeah, sine wave controller, I know. It's not expensive tech, you know? Like modified sine wave versus sine wave, it's not like you're paying like 10 times the amount for sine wave. You know, that's just, yeah. And it is a little bit more efficient. I don't know the actual, you know, number, you know what I mean? But I think it is, because a modified sine wave, I don't know if you don't know, is basically a square wave, right? And it just digitally, you know, tries to like simulate. It's complicated, but oh crap. Sorry, Michael. Can you post that again? I think it was Michael. So something about Y pedal. Here, give me like 30 seconds. I'm gonna go run and do something really fast. Obvious. I'm out in the woods and I have to pee. That's what I'm saying. So I'm gonna mute my microphone. Please hold on for like 30 seconds. All right, sorry about that. Bathroom's a little ways away. Okay, so what was the Y pedal question? So this is going to be like a 1,000-mile trip. Speed. Yeah, they're backwards then. That's what it is. I promise. It's the exact same thing I did. Yeah. You just have to unsolder those two wires and flip them, and then they'll work. Yep. So that's a really, really important topic, though, to discuss with touring on an e-bike. You have to have a temperature sensor. I promise. There has been 3 times now on this trip where normally my motor is between 30 and 45 degrees Celsius, which is way, way under what it is rated for. It's rated for like 150 degrees Celsius, and I have it set to 90 degrees is where it starts to roll off the power. So it has like a built-in. Computers are awesome, by the way. Just get a cycle analyst; it's amazing. But I have it set to 90 degrees, but it's rated to 150, right? And so when I was riding up this out of this reservoir, it was like 100 degrees and just like 20 degree. I mean, you saw in that video, I was like, I was spent. So was my bike. But yeah, it was, it reached 115. So I've overheated, or I've melted wires before climbing hills and just, without a temperature sensor on like a cheap eBay kit, right? So the wires are just not as, right? They're not as like robust as if you were to buy like a more expensive kit. But temperature sensor is very, very crucial. Another thing I could say is that Grin Technologies developed something called a Statorade. So it's a ferrofluid, and what it does is when you inject it into the motor, then it kind of like finds itself in between all of the magnets, and it takes up the airspace, right? And so air can heat up faster than ferrofluid. So once it seals all of those air pockets, then the motor can stay a lot cooler. Oh crap! I just missed that one. Dang it! Can you say that again? Sorry about that. But yeah, most important things to have when you're e-bike touring. You need to have a large enough battery. Yeah, Gatorade, but better. I know, right? Statorade. Yes. And it's ferrofluid, which is cool. Yeah. I'll admit, Grin Technologies was supposed to install Statorade into my motor when I bought it. And when I opened it up to replace a bearing here a couple months ago, it does not have Statorade in there. So they technically owe me a syringe of Statorade because I did pay for it. So there you go. I'm not faulting Grin though. They were like moving warehouses at that time. They're in a new space now, so congrats, for them getting the motor out to me in like, 3 days. But yeah, it didn't have Statorade in there, so no big deal. I haven't had to worry about it. But yeah, without a thermal resistor on your motor, then yeah, you'd be like worried so much if you were climbing hills, or you'd be repairing melted wires, which is never fun. So yeah. Let's see, until I see any other questions. We're about an hour and 22. Another question I have is whether like a normal 750 watt e-bike is good enough to tour with. And I would say yes, but you would probably need more batteries because the one that you have with your bike is probably like 11 amp hours or 17 amp hours. So, again, I think my sweet spot is around 30 amp hours. Yeah. So I have found that I am almost never over 750 watts when I'm touring because, what do you recommend for carrying bags, cargo equipment? Asks Michael. I'm a pannier guy. I like panniers. I use 4 panniers and my tent. So on my bike back there, my 4 panniers are on there, and then let's see. On my rack, I carry my tent in a dry bag. I also use my dry bag for a laundry bag, so I'll pour water up to a certain level, like where the clothes are, and I'll throw some soap in there, and then I'll like hand agitate it. Yeah, Ortliebs are the bomb. I love my panniers. I love them. They were the greatest thing I've ever had. Yeah, and 4 panniers are the way to go, I mean, some people use 2, and I think that's fine, but I like having the extra space. My panniers aren't ever full, I always have extra room, and I don't feel like, 35 pounds of all my stuff is like nothing really. And if I add like food and stuff, because I have like canned food, normally I'll use like dehydrated food, so I just add water to that, and I carry like 2.5 liters of water, plus my, this usually has like tea or water in it. Today it has $1 Arizona tea. But yeah, 4 panniers in a tent. And then I use like a, I was using a bungee cord, but I found this like net, which is really great. So on top of my tent, this is like my, it's like a mesh line bag, and I'll throw like my dirty clothes in here, or wet clothes, right? And then I'll just use my net to like fasten this on top of my tent, so it can like air dry, or if it's like smelly, then it's not getting my clean clothes dirty. But yeah, 4 panniers in a tent. I think my front and I use the classics. I don't use the touring ones. They're just like the normal classic ones and work fine. I will say I have lost 2 of those little inserts. Do you ever worry about traffic on roads? Traffic traffic's just something you have to deal with, unfortunately. I think why, like, when I was on like the Sierra Cascades part, I was more in like gravel and like forest roads and things like that, and so I was on highways less. Now I'm on the 101, so I'm on like a major highway, and it's like pretty much like constant traffic. So I'll just, I throw my headphones on and listen to a podcast more or less. But in terms of like stress, I'm not really stressed out. And the reason being is because, I don't know if you can see it on my left handlebar. My bars are actually flipped around on my bike right now. So my mirror, which you can see the reflection right there, that's like a super important thing to have as well, because you can always look behind you and see what's coming, and you don't have to like turn your head, because if you turn your head, like your tendency to kind of like move your bike is pretty common. So I don't know, you just get used to it for a while. My mantra is basically cars don't exist. I know that sounds weird, but like you just kind of pretend that they don't exist, because otherwise you're just going to be paying attention to cars the whole time. I try to like get over when I can. I try to be like mindful of like big trucks and things. So if I see myself coming up to a point where they might struggle trying to get past me, then I will purposely slow down and pull over and like let them pass. I feel like that's kind of a good way to navigate your trip, is just try to be mindful of all the other people on the road too. Like share the road, which is a sign that you see for like cars and bikes. I think it's important to do that on both sides. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah, I think if you're going to represent the cycling community, you should do it the right way and like not just pretend. Yeah, mirrors are just the most crucial thing. And I use the Miracle Mirror. I've had like 7 of these. I'm so happy that I haven't cracked this one, because normally my bike falls over. So I was using a Pletcher kickstand, which is really good, but it was just a little bit too short. So I had it cut too short, so it would tip over in the wind. This thing doesn't tip over at all. I could toss stuff. Here, I'll toss my... See? It's not going anywhere. Instant coffee can't stop it. Here, let's try something else. Let's try my creamer. Nothing's going past that kickstand. Let's see. So I've covered battery, I've covered where to charge. I think I just want to I really want to drive home that the biggest concern for people e-bike touring is being stuck out in the middle of nowhere. Jonesing for e-bike. Yeah, thanks man. I'm happy to be of help. I realize that, I've been on my e-bike journey, my own personal e-bike journey for 8 years, and I did buy a bike that someone else had built, and it was like this Frankenstein monster. And nice dad. My dad's can't stream us stream, sucker. I'm gonna sue you. I'm gonna copyright infringement your ass, Dad. Just kidding. So, no, I know he's just streaming on Chromecast. I get it. But anyway, so 8 years. So yeah, I bought this bike. This dude had Frankensteined it together. It was like a 29er. It was a Walmart. It was a Mongoose, Mongoose bike. God, it had SLA batteries when I got it. It went 7 miles. It was terrible. Everything about it was terrible, but I loved it. It was my first e-bike. It was the first time where, I took it for a test ride and I got on it and I was like, oh, damn. What? Why why have I not found this before? Like, this is insane. And you know, that was like 7 miles range. I had to like charge it for 4 hours to go 7 miles. And that lasted like, I don't know, a couple weeks. And then I bought LiPo batteries, and I built a 52 volt LiPo pack and got all into that. And then I was like, you know, able to go like 30 miles, and that was really cool. And then I bought a larger pack, and then I was able to go 50 miles. And then now I have then I got into e-bike touring. And I was like, okay, this is like what I want to do. You know, I really love touring. I love camping. I like the idea of leaving my house and like going, I literally left my doorstep on my bike. I went all the way around Mount Hood. I went all the way down past Mount Jefferson and, gosh, where else? All the way past Crater Lake, down to Ashland, down to the tip of California. And now I'm coming back up. And that was all from my doorstep. And my plan was to go to Tillamook and take the shuttle bus back, but there's a part of me that kind of wants to go all the way to Astoria and then ride back through the forest and then end up back at my doorstep, you know, because I think doorstep to doorstep is just really cool. But yeah, you know, I've been on the e-bike journey for 8 years, and I've been touring for 3 years. Yeah, it is so. No. Yeah, it's awesome. Like leaving from your doorstep and just like, I mean, now this is my 3rd trip leaving from my doorstep and just going out for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever, and then just arriving back at your doorstep on your same vehicle, you know, not taking any transportation or not having to have a car or anything like that. But yeah, you know, I've been commuting every day, more or less. I sold my car 6 years ago. I've been on my e-bike I bought my first one 8 years ago. And then the one I'm riding right now, this guy, it's a Trek 820, cheapest Trek mountain bike you can get. I've been riding that for over 25,000 miles now on this bike. You know, as it sits, I probably have, well, with that computer, I know I have over 10,000 miles, but it's been many iterations, you know, to get to that point. So yeah, I appreciate you watching. And I know that there aren't really that many e-bike tourers out there. There's you know, Jack Butler, but now he's like got into like van life, and so he's not really touring anymore. There's a bunch of like bike tours, but I'm one of the only people that actually is doing e-bike touring. So I feel sort of like humbled in, you know, being able to share my knowledge and my experience over the last 8 years of, you know, daily commuting and building bikes and touring now. And yeah, Jack Butler, I know. Yeah, it's too bad because he did the Sun Trip, and that is one thing I want to do. But yeah, now he's doing like van life stuff. Yeah, Sun Trip. Yeah, like I researched all those guys. If you haven't watched, like if you go on Grin Technologies, or actually they're on the Grin Technologies e-bike page, there's a really cool, thanks, appreciate it. Yeah, if you go on the Grin Technologies e-bike page, they actually have a compilation that someone did, like a really, really well done video production of the Sun Trip that Justin from Grin did with his now wife. Bike packing, really want to go bike packing, it looks super awesome. Yeah, that's the way to get out off the roads, you know. And I think with e-biking, that's more of a challenge, right? Because now you're talking bike packing setup versus touring setup. So you wouldn't want to use panniers on a bike packing trip. You'd want to use like a saddlebag that came off. You know, it's a little bit harder to trying to keep your like bike streamlined, because normally a lot of people that are doing bike packing trips, where my battery is at, that's where they would keep most of their stuff. Yeah, I know, but now he's doing like van life stuff, you know what I mean? Like, that's what I was trying to say earlier in this video. It's like this progression. It's like, you start one thing, and then, you know, it's like all the van lifers like went to like build, like now they're renovating cabins, or they're renovating this, or they bought land in Panama or whatever, you know. A lot of the like bike tour people, yeah, a lot of the bike tour people that I've seen. So this, you know, if you want other like fun stuff to watch, this guy, Ryan Van Duzer out of Boulder, Colorado, he's a inspiration of mine, just a good guy to watch for like bike touring videos and stuff. He just did the Continental Divide, I think, but it's on a regular bike. Oh, thanks, Dad. Appreciate it. But yeah, Ryan Van Duzer, he's keeping it real. There's a guy named Bicycle Touring Pro. He's kind of like an old school bike tour guy, but I don't know, they've just gotten too like mainstream. They're like, now it's like they're all sponsored, and they're, you know, staying in like nice hotels, and like, I don't know, they're just not, you know. And the guy's got like a Co-Motion bike, which is like with pinion gears, you know, so it's like a $10,000 bike, and, you know, he has 5 sets of Ortlieb panniers, right? I don't know. I like the more like raw, natural kind of stuff, and my channel is really designed to promote e-bike commuting and touring, kind of just showing the capabilities of what these can. Foresty Forest, yeah, I know, right? Yeah, I've seen those videos too. See, yeah, if I were to do van life, here's what I would do. I would enjoy the idea of having a van, but it would be like a full-on like e-bike shop / van living situation, right? So I'd have like a fold-out like couch bed, but then I would have a full-on like space to where I could have my e-bike, or I could like bring in somebody else's bike and be able to have like a bike shop with like, you know, a bike stand and everything like mounted there on the side. I think that's how I would do it. But man, there's just like a part of me that likes the idea of knowing that everything I have on this table, besides a couple of rain items, I can totally e-bike tour indefinitely, really, you know, given that I have like a little bit of income. But being able to share, being able to stay at like hiker biker camps, and being able to travel around. I mean, I would love to do like motorbike, yeah, motorbike in a van. I know, but an e-bike is so much better. It's just so much easier. Like, I mean, the ideal van life setup is having you know, a few solar panels on top, right? And being able to like charge your bike inside your van, and be able to live in there, and be able to have like a workspace to be able to do, you know, whatever you're doing for like passive income and stuff. Yeah. I think putting a motorbike in a van would be a lot harder than an e-bike. But yeah, no, I like being agile. So, I mean, one of your earlier questions was, you know, asking about, you know, what gear would I choose? So, you know, I've thought about a trailer, you know, talking about Jack Butler. He has a solar panel trailer, he did, for the Sun Trip. The trailer he has was the one I was going to use. It's a single wheel with like suspension on it, and it also collapses into itself. So like the bag that goes in the cage, the whole entire trailer can fit inside that bag. So if you need to like fly with it, I think that's really cool. But really, I weighed all of the options, and the trailer is like $1,200. The panels are going to be $500-600. And the way I was going to do it is I was going to have a 150 watt panel with another 150 watt panel stacked on top of it. So while I'm riding, I'm only using the top panel, but when I'm stopped, I can take the panels out, and I can place them to where I'm getting, you know, full power. So 300 watts, right? While I'm just sitting there in the daylight. And then once you get the solar charge controller, you know, I mean, it was close to, you know, $2,500 to do that. And then you have a trailer with you, and you have this, you know, huge solar panel. I don't know. To me, that's just so cumbersome. I feel like what I found with the the 100 mile range and being all self-contained on my bike, 4 panniers in a tent, you know. I can do single track, I can do gravel, I can do road, and I can go for 100 miles, and there's practically nowhere that you're gonna find where you're gonna be in between power sources within 100 miles range. Like, I just have not found that to this day, you know. So, because I like doing single track, I like being able to ride, you know, in the woods, and I want to do a trip to Europe and do what's called the Eurovelo 7, which is from northern Sweden all the way down to southern Italy. But I have to figure out a way to fund that trip. I'd like to do, that's going to take like 3 months. So I don't know. I'll have to see how I'm going to do that. I'd like to like have Grin sponsor me, because I use all of their stuff and I promote them heavily in every single thing that I do. But so many people use Grin stuff. It's not like, you know, I'm just still like a blip in nowhere. Everybody that watches this video, spam Grin Technologies YouTube page and tell them to sponsor me. Streaming on Twitch. Well, the problem with that is ideally, here's what I would like to do. I would like to be able to provide advice, consult people on building bikes, travel around on my e-bike, you know, staying in campgrounds, doing live streams every once in a while, but like making, you know, YouTube exclusive content, maybe start Patreon. I don't know if that would work or not. I always feel weird about like asking for, I don't want to like ask for anything, you know what I mean? I'd rather just like provide content, and if someone wants to like, you know, contribute, then that would be cool. But I've always just been kind of weird, because even with like Amazon affiliation, for example, like people always ask like, oh, like what's all these parts on your bike? And yes, most of those are available on Amazon, and I could totally have like Amazon affiliation, and I can just put Amazon links to all of those things. But I don't like to support Amazon, honestly. I rather support local businesses. So yes, you can find all that stuff on Amazon, but I'd rather you go to your local bike shop and buy them there, you know, and then you have, you know, that relationship with your local bike shop versus Amazon, where, you know, the workers are getting treated poorly, and Jeff Bezos is like flying to space in a penis and all of that stuff, you know. I don't want to fund that. I'd rather fund, you know, Mo's bike shop in North Bend that I was just at, you know, showing these like really cool old school bikes and stuff, you know. I think that's the way to go. So I don't know, I'm trying to figure out like some way of like monetizing my experience without like coming off, like without like going against my own personal like morals and values, you know. Yeah, that's where I'm at. But I make, you know, at this point I'm a production engineer. I do audio and video and camera work and all that. And so that's like my living, you know. I looked out. I know. I've needed this. Like, I'm like 2.5 weeks in, and I feel like it's been this awesome reset, and I feel a lot better. You know, the world's kind of like getting back to normal, but for a lot of you guys that didn't know, like the production industry, which is what I'm part of, our industry was decimated, you know. If you can't come together, no, Bezos, yeah, no. You know, people couldn't come together, people couldn't throw live events. All of the places that I worked, they just closed up and I couldn't do anything. So I was mostly unemployed all of last year, besides the occasional production stuff, like recording, you know, video or audio stuff, or like I did a lot of volunteering for like political fundraisers and educational fundraisers and all that. And things are just starting to open up, and I'm able to get back into the world, but there's also this huge part of me that feels like I'd like to be I don't want to just go back into work and then just focus all my time on work. I'd like to be able to kind of balance that work-life dynamic. And so this whole trip for me was a test. It was like, it's like a reset, but it's also a chance for me to try to do something which I haven't done before, which is streaming as I go, uploading videos as I go. I've been going, every 2 to 3 days. So all the content I've recorded up until today will be in the next video that I will probably edit tonight, tomorrow morning kind of deal, and hopefully have it uploaded tomorrow or maybe the next day. So I've only been like a day or two behind as I've been going. And it's just kind of like I don't know, like a test, like being productive and being out in the woods and kind of meditating this whole time. As riding, you get like a whole bunch of time to meditate and think about things. And yeah, just kind of like experience that. It's like a mixture of my production world as well as my e-bike world as well as my touring world, and trying to make all of that sort of fit together and make sense. And maybe sometime I can somehow monetize that in a way that fits with my core values and makes everyone happy and can still make cool content, So the cool thing is I met this guy. This is a cool story, and then I'm probably actually going to end the stream here, but I have a cool story for you. So my trip to and then actually I'll also do one more opportunity for questions, but I'll tell this story fast. So I stayed at this camp last night, or for the last 2 nights, and that was when I was supposed to do my live stream. Hey, thanks, man. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Yes, so I met this guy. I won't say his name. He's asked me to keep him anonymous because he is a substitute math and science teacher. But I met him in camp last night, and this is just kind of like the cool synchronicity about being on the road, right? And it's taken me 2 weeks to get synchronized. It's really hard to explain, but like you start out on the road and you're riding and everything's cool and whatever, but you do end up sort of getting into this flow of things where it feels like all of your interactions and all of the things that are happening sort of like come together and they all make sense, and I've been sort of waiting for that this whole time. I thought like Crater Lake was going to be this epic breakthrough, or all these different inspirational points that I've encountered on my trip. I was kind of just waiting for this big breakthrough, and it happened sort of indirectly because of this guy. So he shows up at camp, we start talking, and I realize I met this guy on my way down to San Francisco 2 or 3 years ago, whatever it was. And outside of a Fred Meyer in Florence, I was charging my e-bike, I was eating lunch, having a couple of like Fred Meyer burritos, and I ended up having this conversation with the guy. Well, it turns out it's the same dude that I just met last night. This is 2 or 3 years later. We are on the same stretch of highway, but he is a substitute teacher. So during the summer, he tours around like I do on his bike. And it just so happens that I saw him on the same road. And this is not even the first time that something like this has happened. I've actually seen another person that I've met randomly on the road. And that's why I kind of call this like on the road. There's this weird sort of like synchronicity that happens in meeting people and leapfrogging with people. You sort of fall into this pattern, or not pattern, but like, I don't know. It's like, I don't know, everything just kind of flows together, and then all of a sudden you realize that like you're exactly where you're supposed to be. I'm not going to go like do all like floofy-doo on y'all, but I'm just saying that there is an interesting thing about being on the road. So yeah, just thought that was cool. That was the guy that I met just after my live stream fail on Tuesday, or re-met. All right, so let's see, it's been 70 minutes. Any more questions, guys, before I put all my crap that I took out to show you guys away and set up my tent. They have showers here too, so I'm pretty excited about that. I'm definitely due for a shower. And I'll probably do one more live stream because, like I said, I think I'm pretty sure I'm going to do a door-to-door instead of taking the shuttle back, unless I really am needed for work. I think I'm going to take the extra couple days. So I think Fort Stevens has really good cell service as well, so I'll try to stream from there. $10:15. Well, thanks for staying up, man. Thanks for staying up. Appreciate your interaction, and it's been good talking with you guys. Good night. Nice talking. See you right back. Thanks. Appreciate both. All right. Cool. I'm going to end it there. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Dad. You guys take care, and I will see you in the next video.